I have never denied that I lost.
You refuse to concede and say that you lost. Do you stand by that decision today?
Absolutely. The election was not fair. The process was not fair.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about our favorite Democratic election-denying conspiracy theorist, insurrectionist, Stacey Abrams, who just took a massive L at the hands of an Obama judge when it comes to her claims of the Georgia voting laws being discriminatory against so-called people of color. And that is what stopped her from winning in her governor race against Brian Kemp back in 2018. A long-running conspiracy theory that Stacey Abrams has went with in order to basically deny that the 2018 governor race was a free and fair election that she lost.
And despite the final tally and the inauguration, we won. We won.
Until you win an election, you haven't won an election.
And I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job.
Until you win an election, you haven't won an election.
You notably did not concede.
I did not.
Okay.
Until you win an election, you haven't won an election.
You refuse to concede and say that you lost. Do you stand by that decision today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Stacey Abrams, who refused to concede the governor race to Brian Kemp, even though she lost fair and square, decided to run with this conspiracy that she, in fact, won when she didn't. And The View actually asked her about this a few weeks ago in regards to whether or not she still believes that the election, the governor election, was stolen from her. Take a listen.
I have never denied that I lost. I don't live in the governor's mansion. I would have noticed. And there's this clip that's going around, and it shows me saying that we won. And what I was referring to was that we won in terms of communities that were long left out of the electoral process,
Right.
finally participated in 18 at outstanding numbers.
Right.
But I'm not delusional, so just so that's clear. But what we know was that the issues that we raised in 18, the fact that 214 precincts were shut down, that 53,000 people had their voter registrations held hostage, that 1.4 million people were purged, including 500,000 people who simply had chosen not to vote, that we were able to tackle that because we raised the issues, because I refused to say that that was a good thing. We saw, as a response, the state legislature the following year, in response to lawsuits that I filed and others, started to fix those problems. The challenge is the fixes worked. And in 2020 and 2021, we saw outstanding turnout from communities that had long been the victims of voter suppression. And so Brian Kemp changed the laws again.
Yeah, so as you can see there, not only is she denying that she denied that she lost, which is something that she's been doing the whole time, right, until her hypocrisy got called out in the fact that these same Democrats fearmonger about Trump, and they lose their minds about Trump and his claims when they're making the exact same claims. That's the only thing that actually made her admit the truth. However, during that same segment, she still went back to her conspiracy that, hey, if I lose in 2022, it is because Brian Kemp put those laws back into place. Those imaginary laws that kept so-called black and brown people from voting in 2018, which is the alleged reason why Stacey Abrams lost. However, those same black and brown people turned out in record numbers to vote in 2020, despite the alleged voter suppression, which she conveniently explains away as, well, because of the hard work between me and my organization, black people can vote again, right? Again, absolutely ridiculous stuff. She knows the writing's on the wall here, okay? As Brian Kemp is basically beating her in the polls, right? He's up 6.2 points over her, 50.8% to 44.6% in the aggregate polls for the Georgia governor race. Again, if the election was held today, there's a good chance that Kemp is going to win. He's going to maintain his governorship, and Stacey Abrams is going to lose again. And her excuse for why she's going to lose is that, well, the election was stolen, right? That's exactly what she's going to say. She said, black and brown people, despite the fact that they're probably going to show up in record numbers, okay, just like they showed up during the primaries, right? They're going to say there was some type of voter suppression. That's the reason why she lost. However, even an Obama judge is not agreeing with Stacey Abrams and her conspiracy theory, as he just ruled against Stacey Abrams in her voting rights lawsuit that basically said that Georgia's election laws violated constitutional rights. Again, even an Obama judge is saying, you know, I don't believe this conspiracy, right? I don't think that Georgia's voting laws are unconstitutional, which is a huge blow to her, and her last hope of winning the Georgia election basically has went up in flames. So let's read about this massive L for Stacey Abrams. A federal judge on Friday ruled against an organization founded by Stacey Abrams that argued Georgia's voting laws violated constitutional rights, ending a 4-year legal battle that began after she lost the governor's race in 2018. Isn't that amazing, right? Stacey Abrams claims that, hey, I conceded, right? I conceded the race in 2018. But she's been fighting the 2018 election results in court ever since. Okay, these are the same people that got mad at Trump for fighting the election results in court. But Democrats do the same thing when they lose, right? They fight it out in court. Again, amazing how that works. Shortly after her defeat to Governor Brian Kemp, Abrams created Fair Fight Georgia, an organization that filed a lawsuit seeking to make changes to the state's election system, arguing it suppressed voter turnout that led to Abrams' loss. However, U.S. District Court Judge Steve Jones rejected those claims on Friday, ruling the state's election processes are constitutional. Quote, although Georgia's election system is not perfect, the challenge practices violate neither the Constitution nor the VRA, Jones wrote in his 288-page decision. Quote, having held a non-jury trial and considered the evidence and arguments of the parties for the ongoing reasons, the court finds in favor of defendants and against plaintiffs. Abrams, who is now seeking a rematch against Kemp for the governor's seat in November, denounced the decision, arguing that, quote, there is no denying voter suppression under Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Quote, during this suit, more than 3,000 voters shared their stories, creating an unprecedented and long-lasting record of voter testimony, which highlighted the suppressive effects of the Secretary of State's actions on vulnerable voters. Abrams said in a tweet, quote, as governor, I will expand the right to vote. I will defend minority voters, not bemoan their increased power or grow frustrated by their success. This case demonstrates that the 2022 election will be a referendum on how our state treats its most marginalized voices. Wow, incredible stuff. So Stacey Abrams is arguing here that, hey, we got 3,000 people to say that their votes were suppressed. Therefore, voter suppression must exist. Even though Stacey Abrams can't provide any hard facts to back up her claims that so-called people of color and their votes are being suppressed. How many votes have been suppressed? How many people are not allowed to vote? None of these people can ever give a number. They can never give a number. Meanwhile, there's record voter turnout all over the country, right? Even in these states that claim to have these suppressive voting laws. Again, this is one of the stupidest conspiracies I've ever heard from the Democrat Party that has been busted and debunked over and over and over again, but for some reason they keep coming out here and saying this stuff. And it's being taken seriously by the mainstream liberal media. Again, this is the problem with the media, okay? Because the media should have debunked this conspiracy theory a long time ago, right? The fact checkers should be all on this one, okay? But for whatever reason, they're not. The most likely reason being that it's okay to make election conspiracy claims as long as you say that your election conspiracy claims are based off so-called voter suppression, right? If it's based off black and brown people being oppressed, it's totally fine to make whatever election claims that you want, okay? Which, again, it'd be hilarious if that is what Republicans did if they lose, right? The next time Republicans lose a presidential election or a major election, if they came out here and said, well, you know, I don't necessarily know if the election was fair because black and brown people couldn't vote enough, right? Democrats suppressed them from voting. I wonder would the Democrats buy that, right? Would the mainstream liberal media be like, oh, that's totally fine, right? That's totally okay to say that. Because when Democrats say that, it's fine. But again, it's just shows you just how much of a double standard there is in the media when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, and when it, especially when it comes to these claims about the elections. Democrat reasoning is good. Republican reasoning is bad. Doesn't matter if the Democrats' reasoning is not grounded in any facts or reality. In the 2018 lawsuit, Abrams accused Kemp, who was then Georgia Secretary of State, of using his position to administer the election improperly, arguing Georgia's election laws unfairly discriminated against voters of color. The lawsuit also sought to argue that the laws violated the Constitution due to a state rule that marks voter registration forms as, quote, pending if the information does not match the information on record from the Department of Driver Services or the Social Security Administration. The lawsuit was later updated in 2020 to add Raffensperger as a defendant, and he denounced the lawsuit, arguing it was based on unfounded claims. Kemp praised the judge's decision, calling the lawsuit an attempt from Abrams to line her pockets, sow distrust in our democratic institutions, and build her own celebrity. Ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what it is. Again, it's amazing how we live in a world where if you're a black woman, right, and you lose the election, and then you claim that the election was stolen, right, you make false claims about the election in response, you're elevated to stardom, right? You're some type of superstar, okay? Because that is what Stacey Abrams is in the Democrat Party, and she's a loser. Yeah, Beto as well, too. This guy is a loser, too, but he's a superstar in the Democrat Party for whatever reason. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I really don't. But again, the reality is that it's this a grift. The whole voter suppression thing is one big grift because there's no facts or evidence whatsoever to back up the idea that black and brown people's votes are being suppressed. Lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit has been slapped down, but you still got idiots and clowns like Eli Mastal and Joy Reid and Tiffany Cross going on TV and pushing this conspiracy that black people's votes are being suppressed. Even liberal Obama judges are slapping down these lawsuits, right? Even they're not buying into the BS. So again, Stacey Abrams here, right? It sounds like she's lining up her excuse for why she's going to lose the governor race. And it just so happens that this time around, she can't say that this has not been fought out in court. That the judges already said that there is no voter suppression. It's not unconstitutional, and you got to live with it. So again, how is the media going to respond when Stacey Abrams starts pushing her election conspiracies? I got a feeling that they're going to give her a pass, right? Despite the fact she has no evidence whatsoever to back up these claims, and she's already lost in court. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.